The project started a little over 2 years ago when we transplanted some tape grass that was provided by John Lichter at Bowdoin. We were trying to see if we could transplant it to the head of tide, and if so, what plot size would be best to start them off in.
So, I guess the goal of the project was to see, is it viable to transplant marine grasses in an area like the Cathants, in an area like the head of tide, and if so, what methods will work. We didn't really know what density of grass would be the best. We didn't know what its natural seed dispersal was. We had no idea. So we had test plots with different densities, and it seems like our highest density worked the best. So that's our answer. It seemed, and luckily, the method we used seemed to work really well. We were really lucky. I mean, it was also a test of seeing how long these plants need to be in the greenhouse, and if they are kind of the type of plant that can be transplanted. I think the next step is just go for it and try to restore more areas and maybe even just the head of tide itself. That test plot could just go and fill in the whole bottom there, in that area. But I'm sure there are other parts of Merrymeeting Bay that could use a restoration like this. I'm 100% sure of it. And I think this project will only be sustainable as well if we try to figure out a way to reduce the carp population and populations of other invasive species and the level of pollutants that are entering the bay. I just think it's cool, and it's worth mentioning. This project took a lot of planning, but then when it came down to it, it was just an afternoon of pretty simple labor. We're just sitting out there with waders on, putting these plugs, into the bottom, and it came down to it, just 3 kids one afternoon, and then look what happens with that little bit of time invested, and there's a huge payoff. There's a giant ecological change to that area, and for once, a good ecological change. And I don't know. I just think that's significant, and it should make us all wonder. How much change could we do if we volunteered, if all of us volunteered more afternoons. If every kid in high school had to do something like this, we could see a huge restoration of the environment in this area.